In this episode, we talk about starting a video production company, the generic questions you need to ask when you're validating any startup, and the KPIs and metrics that you measure as any company. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 48 of the AskEngine show. We have 3 questions for you. We're going to go ahead and jump straight into them. Question number 1 is from Reddit. The Redditor is asking, he needs some advice for starting a video production company. I always love reading, it excites me seeing on Reddit people asking, hey, I've just started X business, how do I grow it? It's fun to see people trying and starting new things, so that's exciting for me. I think about it as an optimist, trying not to be a pessimist. How you do this is, and you're probably not going to like this strategy, a lot of creatives very much value their time, their effort, they want to be paid for it, and I get that. If you're starting a video production company and you don't already have, if you don't already have credentials, people that are asking you, people who are already paying you, you need to go out and do high value work for free. So you need to go and find someone who has an audience that you can leverage, create a piece of content for them for free, give it away as a lead generation tool. You've got to build up demand. I mean, it's like asking, it's like asking the what have you done question. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a portfolio, you're going to have a really hard time selling someone. I've got a friend that he's a wedding photographer and he shoots a lot of weddings on iPhones, and that's kind of how he started. And if he just went with that and told people, hey, I'm going to shoot your wedding on an iPhone and I'm going to charge you $2,000 for it, they would literally just start laughing. So what he did is he showed the videos that he shot on iPhones that you would not believe were shot on phones. That sold it, and then he just had to kind of explain to the bride to not freak out and panic when he showed up with 6 iPhone 7s.
Was it more intimate? I know this isn't the question, but was it just better production quality because they were able to get in there? Or I
have no idea. He's a really good storyteller, and so I think that he was able to use the technology that he had to create a really good story. Joe can probably answer this one because you shoot weddings. I mean, what would happen if someone, just we're having a little off-camera conversation here, what would happen if you just rolled up to a wedding with iPhones?
It would be shocking.
It would be shocking?
Yeah, unless you have the portfolio to prove pay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. You've got to get exposure. The quickest way to do exposure is to find Will Smith. Whoever's filming Will Smith's vlogs right now, I guarantee you is getting a lot more upside than just the money that Will Smith is paying him to film them and edit them. Find someone like that, do it for free, sell them on the idea, do it for 3 months, and then use that to springboard into your company.
Yo Holmes to the next question.
What did you just say?
Yo Holmes. Good Lord, you were too young. Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yo Holmes. Next question. Here we go.
All right. Sorry
God,
for not picking on that one up.
Jeez.
Question number 2.
When will your babysitter be here?
Dad?
Jeez.
Question number
Come
2
on,
is what is the generic list of validation questions you almost always ask yourself about any startup idea? I think I'm going to hand this one off to someone who has run a fund and started 8 companies with 5 successful exits. So, John, what are the questions you ask yourself?
Well, number 1, you shouldn't be always asking yourself this. You should pick an idea and go and run with it until it fails. I'm probably a pretty unique scenario in that I have started multiple successful things. The idea of a serial entrepreneur is it's a lot more glamorous. You're not Elon Musk. You're not Steve Jobs, etc. But anyway, so to validate the idea, first you have to start with, are you solving a real problem? And the easiest way to answer that is to actually have the problem yourself. So I say that, and I've a lot of the problems I've solved have not actually been problems, nor have they been one that I've actually had. Like cowboy boots, I built a $100 million business selling cowboy boots, never owned a pair.
That was arbitrage, though. That was you taking a competitive advantage on something that you were an early mover on.
Right. So I think if you go read everyone else's, it's have a problem and solve it, and I think that's important. I mean, a lot of smart people say that, but it's never really been honestly the way I've approached something. I always start with the customer and work its way backwards. So if you see an opportunity to acquire customers in an affordable way, that's a really good first metric for me. Whether it's the first thing you look at evaluating a startup idea or the last one, it has to be a go no go litmus test of whether you actually start that business. So customer acquisition in a profitable, affordable way is one. Number two is the gross margin, contribution margin on a per customer basis. If you're paying people $20 to give away $10 bills, you can give away a lot of $10 bills, but you lose a lot of money doing it. So you have to back into how much money you make on a per transaction basis, the gross margin.
Yeah, so I want to comment on that really quickly, because I was having a conversation, the audit call that I run on Wednesdays with e-commerce people. There was a stock company that we were auditing, and they've got a $70 AOV, and they're
70?
really 70, and they're really struggling with Facebook arbitrage, finding new audiences, and this is the exact conversation we had with them, because a $70 AOV is very low.
It costs you like $5 or $6 to make them, though.
Yes, it does. But the thing I was telling him is that in the Facebook environment right now, if you're under $100 AOV, you're really going to struggle. Like you're feeling the effects of being arbitraged out of a system that is now becoming mature, and it's becoming a fully priced system.
Unless the third variable you look at, right? So the third variable is lifetime purchases. So Dollar Shave Club, boom, right? That just came right in, because you're exactly right. You tossed that up for me. That was easy. But if you look at Dollar Shave Club, what's their AOV? $10 a month? But how many months do you stay hooked? So how, the number of purchases on that, let's say you say for 5 years, geez, they've got 60 purchases off of you. And they don't make a ton of gross margin dollars on a per transaction basis, but if you look at the lifetime value of the customer, it's pretty dramatic. And if you look at how much they spend to acquire a customer, it's low, because their viral videos were, at least in the beginning, I mean, they're spending a ton of money on paid media now.
Dollar Shave Club has really struggled.
They have.
Losing the virality.
Well, I've heard Unilever's written that down, right? Didn't you tell me that the other day, that Unilever wrote down the $1 billion? I think they paid $1 billion to get them out of the market where their legacy brands would survive and thrive. Hopefully, our buddies there at Harry's find a very similar exit. They're crushing it from everything I know about Harry's, which is slightly more upscale. It's a higher AOV. It's the same subscription model. They're actually distributed in Target, which is
really
pretty
smart.
Yeah, it really is.
They took that Bonobos approach of moving into higher value, like Nordstrom's, things like that, to brand to a higher echelon of customer.
Yeah. So those three, I mean, you look at customer acquisition costs. Is there a targetable audience that you can acquire? Well, number two would be your contribution margin, your gross margin. What does that look like? And then number three, and take these all together, number three would be the number of lifetime purchases for the customer. So optimizing those. If you can't answer those three with positives, those are all three litmus tests. Don't do the business.
Yeah. So I want to ask you kind of a follow-up question to this, and put your pure investor hat on, not actually running the company. So I know you disagree with Peter Thiel.
Just say no. That's the investor. No. No.
I know you disagree with a lot of what Peter Thiel says, and agree with a lot of it as well.
Politically.
But yeah, one thing that he says in 0 to 1 is the question that he asks almost every startup founder that he meets with is, what is something that you believe to be a truth that 99% of the market doesn't? And I find that an interesting question. But you as an investor, I think there's a difference in, a lot of people read Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, they read the top 0.1% of investors who are investing in technologies and businesses that have $100 million valuations without a product yet. For an investor, for the majority of investors, when you're looking at a company and you're looking at the metrics, are you looking at, am I going to see an order of magnitude return on my dollars in 5 years? Like, is that what it is, or what does it look like for you?
Well, on a pre-product basis, there's got to be something there. The team plus the technology. I mean, look at Magic Leap. Evidently, they actually have a product, and some people have seen it. And whenever you see it, your wallet gets really loose and you start throwing money at them. Oculus Rift, kind of the same thing. I mean, what was that, a $2.4 billion acquisition from Facebook? It was pre-consumer product, but I think both of those, I mean, they're both in the AR VR space, and you look at them and you go, of course this is going to work, right? Well, Tesla didn't have a car when they raised a ton of money. Yeah, so pre-product is I would never personally do it, but if someone would have come to me with HQ, for instance, if someone would have come to me with that idea, pre-product, Absolutely, been all over it. So there's just there's certain things that stick out that you would do just based on the thing. These are the founders of Vine, for Pete's sake. They've done this before.
Yeah.
And you show me a proof of concept of this, oh, of course I'm going to write this check.
And you show the entrepreneur, because ultimately you're investing in the entrepreneur, not the business of it.
Right, and if you're watching this, you probably have not started and sold a business for hundreds of millions of dollars. So you're not that person. You can't walk up a free product and get someone like me to write you a check. So we need some more signs and signals of quality before we'll write it. So it's I would never. I think most of those are flops or duds. I mean, who knows? HQ was invested in some really smart people, but the valuation, they're making $0 a day. So how do you put 100
spending
plus?
a lot of money.
And they're spending a lot of money too. But how do you put $100 million valuation on it? It's guesswork. That company is either worth $1 million, so well below $100 million, or it's worth $10 billion. I mean, that's the bet that those investors are taking at that valuation. You got to remember, they're putting preferred money into this. So they're making a bet, we're going to put $20 million on the balance sheet. It wasn't that much. Call it $10 million on the balance sheet. Well, assuming the company sells for more than $10 million, the investor gets all their money back. It's really the founder that takes a lot of risk on that scenario. So
perfect. Question number 3, and it rolls right into, off the back of question number 2, is what metrics should a startup measure? And we're going to answer. So he asks
depends on
for
what kind of startup, right?
He asked for e-commerce and SaaS, and I mean it's totally different. It's totally two separate business models.
Yeah,
so
SaaS, you've got customer acquisition cost
churn,
and lifetime value and churn, logo churn versus business churn.
How long your runway is.
How long your yeah, exactly. So let's not talk about SaaS.
Let's talk about e-commerce.
We're building a SaaS business ourselves, so we know those pretty well. E-commerce, go ahead. What?
Yeah, so e-commerce, and John's built a much more scalable business. So I'm going to talk about a startup that's not funded. Because I think that we can give two separate perspectives.
Sure, yeah.
So an e-commerce company that's not funded, that is starting up, the number one metric that you need to be focused on is cash. Cash kills businesses. Yeah. And I'm not talking about making dollars. I'm talking about actually having enough money to fulfill POs, to pay people, to advertise. Like, cash flow in a business is massively important.
Cash flow is more important than profits in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm going to be. That's the number one metric that I'm going to be looking at. Obviously, you're looking at your customer acquisition. You're looking at all these metrics, but you're predicting them. When you first start, you don't know what the lifetime value of a consumer is to you. You can predict it, but you're not going to know. You're not going to know if you horizontally scale and you start offering multiple products. You can't predict what the lifetime value of someone is. So take a rough number. Say it's 2 repeat purchases per person, and add an additional 0.7 for virality of that person sharing that product. Take that number and run it into an equation. Then you get that way. But cash flow is the number one thing that I think about in a non-funded startup, especially e-commerce, because if you run out of money and you can't fulfill purchase orders, you no longer have a product to sell. You're dead. And so that's the number one metric that I would look at. Funded e-com.
Yeah, I mean, funded and non-funded are kind of the same, but funded, then you're going to get to spend paid media dollars. So you're looking at your customer acquisition versus the lifetime value. Of course, you want at least a 2.5 or ideally 3 or greater ratio between those. So if you spend $1, you want to make $3 of profit, or ideally $1 to make $8 of profit. Those are the ones that really blow up in a good way. So that's really the only difference. But when you look at funded, non-funded, it doesn't matter. AOV is very important. So your average order value off of AOV, how do you optimize that? And then what are cost of goods and fulfillment off of that? So those are kind of, to me, you can determine the contribution margin of each sale on that. So take AOV minus cost of goods minus fulfillment, and that's your contribution margin for each sale. Well, you take that, that's a super important metric, and that's operational. And if you don't have a good one there, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to change it. You're going to be able to improve it 10 or 20 or 30% if you're really, really good over time. Things that you can improve exponentially, though, conversion rate. So let's say you're at 1%. Well, is 1% good? Well, it depends. Is 5% good? It depends. But you can always, almost always, I've never seen a case where you can't improve your conversion rate pretty dramatically. My last ecom business, we went from a Facebook strategy that was generating 0.1%, so 1 out of every 1,000 people would buy, to one where 8 out of 100 would buy. So we 80-fold improved it, doing several different things: email acquisition, retargeting, remarketing, the offer, the discount, and the flows. So conversion rate can not only be improved 5 and 10 and 20%, it can be sometimes, like in our case, 80-fold percent. And then lifetime number of purchases. That's probably the biggest of all, whether you're funded, whether you're non-funded. How do you get a customer to come back and buy from you over and over again? Dollar Shave Club has
without
it built.
spending money to reacquire.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to pay Google. I mean, I've got some famous quotes about what I say about being beholden to Google. Sometimes I say it in an off-color way. Don't be Google's, but same with Facebook, same with any other platform. Build your own. So if you haven't built a site where people come back and buy over and over again, you're probably not going to last too long.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Dollar Shave Club, it's built into their model. You order razors every month, whether you want to or not.
Yep.
It's the old Columbia House CD model. It just shows up and over and over and over. It's a subscription model, and it's great. Kind of like a SaaS business. You're building those metrics kind of into it. But then it's repeat purchase. So if you have a really good T-shirt, they love it, they buy another T-shirt from you, and over and over and over, then you can build a really good business that way. Even better, you sell them a T-shirt, then you sell them a jacket, then you sell them a pair of socks, then you sell them underwear, and get a larger share of the basket over time. So those are the three to me.
Yeah, the last thing I would add to this is don't be romantic about why someone's going to come back and visit you. You've got to realize. So I was listening to the Breakfast Club this morning, and Lil Yachty.
Like not
rapper.
the 80s teen.
No, the Breakfast Club. Stop. I'm already 0 for 1 on older references.
Yeah.
So I was listening to Breakfast Club. They were talking to Lil Yachty, who's a young rapper. And part of the thing they were saying is that lyrically he is, I'm just going to say it's garbage. It's not the music that I would listen to. But the reason his fans love him is because he does Twitch live streams and he plays video games with his fans. He gives people a reason to invest in him outside of his core competency, which is music, and he does that by caring first. So when I say don't be romantic about someone coming back, consumers are busy, consumers' attention is very fragmented, and if you think that someone's going to come back out of the goodness of their heart because they just want to check out what new stuff you're trying to sell them, you're not thinking correctly. So you need to give them a reason to come back, allow them to be a part of the creative process, allow them to see behind the scenes, allow access to the inside of the company. That's one way that you can do very cheaply, through an email list, through a Facebook group, through free resources that you can use and leverage to get people to come back time and time again without having to spend additional dollars to acquire them.
Well, good, better, best, and then maybe super best, right? So good would be they come to your site and you remarket to them, you have their email address, and you can just push communication. That's pretty good. That's a good way to engender repeat purchases. Better would be your product is just fantastic and they want to come back over and over just on their own volition.
Yep.
Best would be a combination of those. So not only do you have a great product, but you remind them about it and do push communications to them, user-generated flows, personalized to who they are, and shameless plug for Engine. That's what we're all about. That's the tools that we're building. And then super best would be to do all of that stuff, great product, good push communication, and cheat and have a subscription model, right? But you probably don't have the option for a subscription model, or you'd already be doing it.
Yeah.
You aren't selling razor blades, and
not all products.
Not all products. Yeah, you cannot put, let's say, cowboy boots on a recurring shipment model. I guess you could. It wouldn't work, but you could try. So good, better, best, super best, and track those metrics, and then lifetime value is the chief of all the metrics, I would say.
Perfect. Question of the day for y'all. What metrics do you measure in your business? So comment below, tell us the business that you're in, what metrics you measure, and why you measure them. Thank you all for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow.